Good morning, everyone. As mentioned earlier, the income tax, the increase in the property tax we find to be very excessive and disproportionate. And before I get into the objection and the concerns we have, let me share with you some examples of the disproportionality of which we speak. A property in St. Andrew, valued at $18,000, well, property tax of $18,000 on the previous tax regime, is now being asked to pay $34,000. A property in Charlton in St. Andrew, $7,000 is now being asked to pay $15,000. We go to Mandeville, where a property tax on a property of $162,000 have increased to over $400,000. In St. Elizabeth, the increase has gone from $18,500 to $23,000. And this has to do with property tax. But let us also look at the actual valuation. In St. Catherine, the valuation has gone up on average of 359%. In Portland, 320%. In Trelawney, 397%. In Westmoreland, 618%. In Kingston, 117%. And in Mandeville, 1,751%. Therefore, it is our position that the excessive and disproportionate increase is only going to have a negative effect on our citizens. We take, for example, the breadbasket parish of Mandeville or St. Elizabeth, where the increase has been so excessive. A farmer who here before would have paid $10,000 or $15,000 on property tax is now being asked to pay $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 on property tax. That farmer has to send his or her daughter to Kingston to university and rents a room for $30,000, and that student is now being told that she or he has to pay an increase in rent by $10,000 a month. This is the real impact that this increase is having on our citizens, and we cannot support it. The fact of the matter is the government wants us to believe that with the difference or the change in the band or the percentage, that significant persons will benefit. Of the over 800,000 persons on the tax roll, over 200 persons will have some benefit. And we're happy for those persons, 200,000 persons, and we're happy for them. But the fact of the matter is that over 500,000 Jamaicans are asked to pay this increase in property tax, and that cannot be supported. We look at the agricultural lands, which are particularly hit, and there is an average increase on the property tax liability for agricultural lands of 93%. And the irony of it is that in agricultural lands, we only have a 45% increase, compliance. And so if we can't have persons pay on the lower property tax, the question is, how are they going to pay on the increased property tax? Clearly, this imposition lacks consultation, it lacks thought, and we do not support it. The government has said a lot about agricultural lands that you can apply for special consideration. And it is so because derating exists. The fact of the matter is that derating has always existed. The Land Tax Relief Act provides that 50% can be discounted for agricultural lands, and that is not something new. The challenge we have, however, is given the excessive increase in some instances bordering 1,000%, a 50% discount on the property tax is not going to be instrumental, is not going to be effective when one considers the increase that has been levied against our farmers. Let us look at objections. Much has been said about objections and that you can object to your property tax. And it is so because the Act does provide that anyone who is in opposition to the value being apportioned to that property can object. The fact, though, is that the government must come clean and must be honest and transparent and tell Jamaicans the truth. If you wish to object, you can do that within 60 days, but what the government is not telling you is that that objection must be accompanied by a payment of 75% of the assessed value, whichever is higher. So, for example, if the government assesses your property at $1 million, and you have a problem with that because you believe that the property should be assessed at $2 million, you have to pay 75% of the $2 million. The converse is also true. If the government assesses your property at $1 million and you believe that your property should be valued at $500,000, you have to pay 75% on the higher value, and that is the law. And which is the $1 million, and the government has not come clean. The government has not been transparent in telling Jamaicans that you have to pay this 75% as well. We also have some concerns in terms of the processes that will be employed in terms of the consideration of the objection. Firstly, there is really no clear guideline as to when it will be assessed, who will assess it, the duration that it will take, and we believe that there has to be certainty and clarity as to the process that is involved in terms of filing an objection. And also, the government has failed to inform persons that having gone through the objection process, if it is that your objection is denied, not only do you have to pay the arrears, that is the difference between the 75% that you paid and what is owing, but you have to pay interest rate on that which is owing. And we believe these are important considerations that must be shared with Jamaicans so they understand what is at stake, so they understand the process fully. The government has also said very nonchalantly that there is also the provision for discretionary waiver for what we call indigent or poor. Again, we have some concerns with that because the process is still not clear. What we also know is that there seems to be some kind of conflict and there's a need for reconciliation, because whereas the law does not provide expressly that there's a need to pay 25% in order for your application for discretionary waiver to be considered, the application form produced by the ministry does say that. The application form also states that there must not be any arrears owing if you are to be considered for discretionary waiver, and all arrears therefore has to be paid in full. We ask that the government comes clean, that the government be transparent, that the government be open to all persons so they understand the processes that are involved in application, whether it's for an objection or it is for a discretionary waiver. In the end, we in the opposition support the payment of property taxes. We encourage persons to pay property taxes. However, the property tax imposition that has been placed on Jamaicans for this fiscal year, it is immoral, it cannot be supported, and we do not encourage it, and we're asking the government to consider a full, nothing but a full rollback will suffice.
Thank you. Dr. McNeil will speak on the impact on the tourism industry.
Hmm?